Merry Christmas! Hope you're ready for the gift of talking about the Florida Gators tight end room.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day, especially if you're listening to this on Christmas. First off, you're a psycho and I love it. Second off, thank you so much. Wish you all a Merry Christmas. If Christmas is what you celebrate, if you celebrate anything else, I hope you have a wonderful anything that you are celebrating. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. And I wanted to talk about the tight end room. One, because it's Christmas. This is a gift to myself to talk about the tight end room, okay? Favorite position on offense. I want to talk about it on Christmas. That's what we're doing. But also because portal's been open for a few weeks now, and every day I see people either in my comment section here on Twitter or in our Subtext Insider program, which the link's in the description below if you want to be a part of that, always talk about Florida should go after a tight end in the portal. That's not going to happen, okay? For two main reasons. One, they don't need to. Two, it takes basically a year to learn how to play tight end in this offense, okay? Basically, any tight end that you touch, you're not going to get production from in that first year. And this is not something new. I told you that when Arliss Boardingham committed in 2022, Billy Napier's first class. I said, hey, freshman tight ends are not going to play much in this offense. This just not. It just takes you too long to learn it. I told you that when Amir Jackson committed for the 2024 class. And we will talk about him a little bit later. But again, true freshmen are not going to play in this offense at tight end. They're just not. Doesn't matter how good they are. They're not going to. Been trying to tell you that. It doesn't happen. Okay? We've talked about it with Hayden Hansen, who has been in the system for 3 years, who has been on this show every Wednesday during the season for 3 years. And he's called it the figure it out position, you know? He's like, it's something where you need to take a lot of time to learn it. There's so many rules and responsibilities to this offense that to play tight end, you need to take that time and learn it, right? It would be incredibly rare to be able to get a portal kid to commit and learn the offense enough to not be limited in what you can do with him. Like for now, they'll bank on their evals and development, but for now, it's just not a thing they're going to do in the portal. And here's the thing, I don't think they need to do it in the portal at all. Hayden Hansen, I've talked about him a lot. Obviously, he's been on the show for 3 years. He was a fantastic evaluation. Yes. I said this a while back. I think he's a hell of a blocker. One of the best blocking tight ends in the country right now. Whether or not people agree or disagree, I really don't care. I think the fact that he's been out there consistently, doing a pretty damn good job consistently. Yeah, hell of a blocker. Straight line speed, great. Absolute unit to bring down. Big catch radius. Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be a first-round pick at all, right? Obviously not. But I am saying that I don't think that you need to look to replace his role in the offense as the primarily inline blocking tight end. Not a thing you need to replace, right? I hope we'll see him get the ball more next year. When he was throwing the ball this year, was very efficient. All right, first downs almost every catch. Like I said, unit to bring down. He's listed as 6'8", like 252, like he's a big dude. And if you look at him on the show when he's here on Wednesdays, he was here this past Monday, but you look at him in the just his shoulders are popped out. It's wild. Absolute unit to bring down 8 yards after the catch per catch this season. Again, straight line speed. He's I've told him he's not super agile, but straight line speed's there. Big target for quarterbacks. Move the chains. That's what he's trying to do, right? He's trying to be a chain mover. Does that well. Tony Livingston, very good blocker for the position, especially for someone who just is learning tight end, right? He's been here 2 years. He's part of the 2022 class. It didn't enroll until 2023. So he's that part. But very good blocker at the position that's learning tight end. Very athletic player. Like, he's got a lot of potential, I think, at least. I think Tony Livingston has a lot of potential at the position. He used to be a basketball player, so he's got that. Hayden Hansen also was a basketball player in high school. Tony Livingston was being recruited to play basketball, and people thought, hey, he might just go to basketball full-time. Stuck with football, playing tight end because he could not play offensive line anymore. Just learning the position, but, I mean, touchdown in the Gasparilla Bowl. Hell of a target. And I do think that when you look at the combination of Hayden and Tony, and Hayden talked about this on Monday, where the combination of both of them is really tough for a defense to defend because both of them can block. And both of them have enough speed to get vertical and attack the seams if they need to. Not that this offense allows them, but they both got the speed to do that. They're both big body targets that can move the sticks. Like, they've got their roles, and they are, as a duo, way less one-dimensional than when Arliss Boardingham was the starter. When Arliss Boardingham came on the field, you were like, okay, they're throwing the ball. He's a horrible blocker. I'm not going to go insulting him. I'm just going to be honest. Horrible blocker, was ineffective there. As a pass catcher, wasn't getting the targets. What's the point of having him on the field? That's how I looked at it, at least, was when Arliss came on the field, you knew that he wasn't going to be blocking much. It wasn't a thing they asked him to do. But also, you knew that this offense wasn't throwing to tight ends frequently. So what's the big selling point to have him out there? Like, yeah, he could have been a mismatch, but he doesn't get the ball. Tough, right? So I think that when you look at the tight end room in 2024 and who were the contributors, Arliss Boardingham is in the transfer portal. My expectation, I've been saying since he hit the portal, I was like, it would not shock me if he wound up at Arizona State. He was being recruited by Kenny Dillingham, who is currently the head coach at Arizona State, but he's being recruited by Kenny Dillingham, and Kenny Dillingham was the offensive coordinator at Oregon. Wouldn't shock me at all if Arliss wanted to go back out west. Wouldn't shock me if he wound up at Arizona State, right? Easy connection when we talk about relationships and all that. So Hayden and Tony are coming back for 2025. My expectation right now would be that they are going to be the starters. However, there's two more players that are presently in that room that we are going to talk about that could be contributors next year and will hopefully be contributors next year. I want to see more rotation at tight end. Nothing to do with talent, strictly to do with just they're playing a lot of snaps. Like, most of the snaps on the offense are Hayden Hansen's near the top. It's the offensive lineman, QB, Hayden. Like, playing a lot of snaps. So looking at that, I'm just gonna say, yeah, let's rotate a little bit, keep guys healthy, keep things fresh, keep things clean. We will talk about the other guys that will become contributors in 2025 or should become contributors in 2025 next on Locked On Gators. Gametime is focused on togetherness this holiday season, and that means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, including the idiots that put the price ridiculously high because they think someone is going to see that first and go pick that one. You're stupid if you do that. It's never going to work. You're wasting your time. I just want to throw that one out there. If you want to go see any bowl game that might be near you, might be near where you live, if you're traveling for the holidays, safe travels, might be a bowl game going on near you. They're all over the place right now. You can go to Gametime, last-minute tickets. Beautiful. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time, baby. Thanks for being Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Another reason that I don't think the Florida Gators will look into the transfer portal for a tight end, And another reason why I think the Florida Gators don't have to look into the transfer portal for a tight end is that they have 2 tight ends that are on roster that should be ready to contribute in 2025. Okay? First off, Amir Jackson. We talked a bit about him last segment. He was a tight end commit out of Portal, Georgia, that when he played in high school, recruited as a tight end, all that, but he was playing wide receiver. That was one of the main reasons I said he's not going to play much in 2024, is that he was playing receiver. They had him lined up out wide, running end arounds. Like, he was doing everything. He was a receiver. He had to come in, needed to bulk up a little bit, I think. And by bulk up, I just mean gain weight. I don't mean his build necessarily, but needed to just gain some weight, play tight end, and be able to hang and bang. Because even if you are the flex tight end in this offense, you are going to be lined up in line or offset, and you are going to need to be able to block. Fact of the situation. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care how I feel about it. I don't care how anybody else feels about it. Fact of the situation, if you're going to play any sort of tight end role in a Billy Napier offense, whether or not he's the play caller, you need to be able to block. You are going to line up all over the place and block. Arliss was the flex tight end, right? He lined up in the backfield. He was playing fullback on some place. It happens a lot, okay? So that's something where don't think you need to really just go, oh, yeah, well, you could just not block. Nope. You need to be able to block. So Amir Jackson has gained whatever weight he needs to gain. He looked a lot better. We saw him in the bowl game. He's out there. He looks built, rocked up frame, right? I expect him to, at the very least, play a rotational role in 2025. I think that Amir Jackson is someone where you could say he's probably going to compete with Tony Livingston, maybe not for the starting role, but for snaps as that flex tight end. Maybe you see Tony go to more of the inline behind Hayden, whatever. I do think that we'll see Tony I'm expecting Tony to be starting with Hayden, but wouldn't shock me if Amir Jackson was pushing Tony for reps there, if Amir Jackson can compete as a blocker. As a pass catcher, sure. I don't think anybody's like, oh, yeah, well, Tony's just too lethal as a pass catcher to replace with Amir. Amir, again, basically played wide receiver in high school. He should have a leg up as a pass catcher. But where we get into the mix is, can you block at the SEC level? Because, again, that was Arliss's big thing. Arliss was a fine route runner, all that stuff. But tight ends don't get used enough in the passing game in this offense to say, yeah, you could be a horrible blocker, but as long as you can run routes, because you're going to get 15 to 20 targets in the season, need to kind of rein things in there and say, yeah, you need to be a viable blocker. So for Amir Jackson, that's the big thing. If he can be a viable blocker, I think that we start talking about, well, maybe he and Tony are going to have a battle in the spring for the starting spot. Amir's going to have that year in the system. Maybe he'll know. And then last year in the portal after the 2023 season, the Florida Gators brought in Caleb Rillos, a tight end from Air Force, who had to redshirt in 2024. Great blocker at Air Force. Remember, Air Force is an option offense. The only thing the tight end's really doing is blocking. Like, it's not like Air Force is having 1,000-yard tight ends or anything like that. Like, you're blocking, and that's pretty much all you're going to be doing as a tight end in that offense. 6'5", 252 pounds. He's more of the inline guy. Again, he's going to be blocking. 84% of his snaps in 2023 were blocking. That's a ridiculous number. Just for comparison, because, everybody talks about how Hayden Hansen is in there blocking and calling him, the glorified tight end and all those, or glorified offensive tackle and all those tricks. 68%. That's a pretty big difference, right? 15, 16, depending on the percentage points. That's a pretty big difference there. Caleb Rillos had 8 catches for 97 yards in 2023. Again, you're playing tight end in this offense. You need to be able to block. You play tight end for Air Force, you can block. They are an option offense. So, got to be there. He was a portal addition, and he was a portal addition because they knew that he needed to redshirt. So they said, hey, you need to redshirt in 2024. That gives you that year to learn how to play tight end in our offense. Because while Caleb Rillis was a great blocker, he had no pass catching experience. So that was going to be a new thing for him as well, as learning how to be a receiver. So he always needed the redshirt year. So they were able to portal him in and say, hey, you're coming from the Air Force, which is great. But as in, like, they're a great college football team. But this is the SEC. This is different from the Mountain West. You need to spend time in our strength and conditioning program and get used to competing against SEC athletes week in and week out. You can do that against our guys. You need to learn how to play tight end in this offense. Because, again, we've talked about this before with Hayden Hansen. It could be as simple as, if the edge player is head up with me, this is my responsibility. If he shifts to my outside shoulder, my responsibility changes. If he shifts my inside shoulder, my responsibility changes. You need to know how to defend everything. And you need to know how to adjust to everything, especially when you face a team like Georgia, who Georgia's bread and butter. They got Hayden with it in 2023, shifting the line right before you're getting ready to snap, or right before they think you're getting ready to snap. They got Hayden with it. He had a false start in 2023 because of it, that shift. And he was like, they'll never get me with that shift again. Like, that was a big thing. They do that. You need to know how to handle these adjustments, because if they shift and you snap, you need to know exactly what your role is now that things have shifted. You need to know what your route is going to be depending on what coverage they're playing. You need to know a lot. So that year really matters for a guy like Amir Jackson, or for a guy like Caleb Rillis, where your blocking assignment, your route running assignment could change completely just by a simple shift. It matters. So that's why in 2025, now that they've both got a year in the system, they can maybe take that next step and become contributors in 2025. Florida Gators also went out and got 2 tight ends in the 2025 high school class. We'll talk about them next on Locked On Gators. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W, and I love betting on which players will score a touchdown. Love betting on team total. You know what I've actually found a lot of success with lately? When there is a first quarter total, like between both teams, when there's a first quarter total of 7.5 at plus money, I just bet it. Even if I'm not sure it'll hit, I'm like, you know what? Plus money, 7.5. That's a touchdown and a field goal. That's it. That's really not asking for much. So that's how I look at it. That's one thing I've been finding success for. Let's say that. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators this summer added 2 commits to the tight end room. Micah Jones out of Mississippi and Tayshawn Gelsey in Jacksonville. Tayshawn Gelsey is no longer with the class. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But Micah Jones was the addition that he's the hammer, right? He's the blocking tight end in the class, which it seems to be that Florida is pretty comfortable skipping classes in terms of prioritizing some things. I think that the logic behind it is we can get a blocking tight end every other class because blocking tight ends don't typically declare for the NFL draft early. It's not really a big concern because they don't have enough receiving production to justify it. I think that's the logic that they're taking there. Because you have Hayden's your blocking tight end, and then you didn't take another blocking tight end until Micah Jones. But receiving tight ends, they tend to declare early or portal if they're not getting touches, things like that, which is why you go, hey, Arliss, we're going to go, or Arliss and Tony, then we're going to go Amir Jackson. Now we've got Cameron Kossmann, who we'll talk about next. But Micah Jones is that blocking tight end for this class. 3-star tight end from Mississippi, and I like his film a lot. There was a month or so ago, we talked about the commits in the class, and I was saying that, there's quite a few commits that I think are better than their ranking. I would probably say Micah Jones is better than that low 3-star-ish range that he's in right now. However, I also get that it's rare for blocking tight ends to get ranked high. 2 main reasons, or maybe even 3 main reasons. One, I think for the evaluators, the people that are doing the rankings, I think it's really tough for those kinds of evaluators to gauge blocking tight end, who's good at it, who's just stronger than their opponent, who's this, who's that, right? I think they struggle with that. I think they struggle with a lot of things, and I think that's one of them. So that's one. 2, it's not the sexy kind of tight end, right? Like there's no production for you to go, oh my God, look at that. Like that's, he had 1,000 yards as a tight end. That's really impressive. You don't get that when you're the blocking tight end, right? And so I think that that's part of where you don't have the production to get seen. And 3, I don't think there's a lot of demand for those inline blocking tight ends anymore. Just there's a lot of offenses that don't use them and don't use them properly. So I think that those all kind of go into why you don't see blocking tight ends get the hype. You don't see blocking tight ends get the ranking recognition. Part of it's that the rankers just aren't good at it. Part of it is that they're not poppy and productive enough to really say, oh, well, he had 1,000 yards. We need to have, like, he has to be at least a 4-star, maybe 5-star. You don't get that as a blocking tight end. What you do get is you put on the film, you look at Micah Jones catch a ball and then run through a mother trucker's face, and then you get it, right? Then you go, okay, well, yeah, he might not have the ranking, but he's a good football player. I like Micah Jones' film, especially for the blocking tight end role in this offense. Yeah, and I think he's got a good bit of pass catching upside. I do. Then we talk about the other tight end that the Florida Gators added, because, again, Tayshawn Gelsey was committed to the Florida Gators. Towards signing day, as we were approaching signing day, it basically became he wants to play wide receiver. And because that's what he played in high school. And it basically became he has to make a decision of if he wants to play tight end for the Florida Gators or if he wants to play wide receiver for the Florida State Seminoles. And when he said, I want to play tight end, Florida backed off. Florida was like, all right, then we're done with you. Like, we're out. There's not a spot here for you. Which, by the way, fantastic decision. As a tight end, I love what Tayshawn Gelsey brought to the table. I thought he could play like the Kyle Pitts type role. But not saying he's Kyle Pitts, but that skill set. But as a receiver, I don't care. I don't want Johnny Wilson. I don't want the 6'6" guy that can't separate. And it's like, oh, he mosses everyone. Cool. I don't care. That's not efficient football. That's not effective football. That's not sustainable football. That's not what they're going to look for. Like, yeah, they want size, but not that much that can't separate. I don't think Tayshawn Gelsey is going to stay at wide receiver for his entire career. I just don't. I really view him so much better as a tight end. And again, as a tight end, blue chip player, I would take him in a heartbeat. Receiver, good luck. Maybe see you in Conference USA in a couple years contributing there. I just don't see it. Then, when they pulled out of the Tayshawn Gelsey recruitment, they then turned their attention back toward Caden Peoning, tight end from Ohio that's committed to UCF. Florida had him on campus this summer, and when Tayshawn Gelsey was ready to commit to Florida, they backed off of Caden Peoning. So Caden Peoning is not signed at the time that they were pulling out of the Tayshawn Gelsey recruitment. That was the Wednesday of signing day. And then they turned their attention toward Caden Peoning, and he waited until Friday. And eventually he was like, you know what, I'm going to stick with UCF. Makes sense, kind of. I don't know. I understand saying, hey, like, I wasn't Florida's priority then. I don't want to be their second option now, but at the same time, your head coach at UCF left. And so that's odd to me, at least. Again, that's just, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I think it's weird. But then on Monday this week, the Florida Gators landed a commitment from 6'6", 240-pound tight end Cameron Kossmann out of Missouri. Unranked tight end by the composite. He's a 2-star on 24/7, unranked everywhere else. I don't know how I feel about it. I saw a lot of people talk about how, yeah, but Hayden Hansen was ranked like 1,800 and something when he committed to Florida. And it's like, well, I guess, sure, but Hayden plays a blocking tight end role. I don't think Cameron Kossmann is going to do that. I think he's going to be more of their flex tight end to replace Tayshaun Gelsey or Caden Penning. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm going to be honest. We'll see what he can become. He's obviously going to be a developmental piece. Every single tight end that Florida takes is going to be a developmental piece. So we'll see what Cameron Kossmann can become. Class average took a big hit, but hey, if you think he can become an effective tight end at the SEC level, let's see you do it, right? Let's see it happen. Again, we know he's not going to do anything for a year. Let's see what he can become. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow. Merry Christmas to all of you. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.